In this module, we're going to discuss all things text. We're going to look at the string class, character class, string builder class. We're going to look at the regular expressions. So when you think about class, what do you think about? What terms, what's the basic ideas of class? Well, you've been doing class diagrams for the last few weeks. So I hope you're thinking methods, constructors, and attributes. So since the string is a class, does a string like apple have a method? And the answer is yes. So what we're going to do in this particular video is only look at string class. There's other classes in this chapter, but we're going to look at the string classes. We're going to look at the constructors and the methods of the string class and demonstrate them. We'll also discuss how a string is like an array. In fact, a string is an array. And I'll give you some resources from the Oracle website because there's a lot of methods. You can't cover them all. So a string is an array of characters. Here we have been declaring a string like this for the last, ever since you made Hello World, we've been declaring strings like this. It is equivalent to creating an array, which you know how to do because we did it in CS 121 and this semester also, an array of type char. And then assigning it using the new constructor, that array. These two hold the exact same thing. There are 15 different constructors in Oracle. And here's the Oracle documentation, and here's the constructors. 2 are deprecated. Deprecated means that they had it at one time, and they're keeping it in this library now for backward compatibility, but moving forward, don't use it. Let me demonstrate figure 14.1 from the author is creating a character array, birthday with a space in it, and creating a new string using the new operator, what the output is. Okay, so S1 is an empty string, S2 is S is hello, so S2 is also hello. These two will actually point to the exact same place in memory, the way this is assigned. You can't assume that when you create a new object, they're going to be pointing to the same place in the heap, right? Here we have a new array, or excuse me, we have a new string of type character array. So that's going to say birthday, isn't it? But now we also have character array, but notice the 6.3, the extra parameters here say no, start at 6, index 6, and take the next 3. So S4 only contains day. Okay, let's look at some string methods. Talked about strings are like an array, and I tried to set this up. Let's say this is, well, I say it's animal here and password here. Let's say this is a variable called animal. And notice, just like an array, it's got an index. 0 will be Z. We've been covering arrays last semester and this semester. Think about some of your basic terms for arrays. Jot them down. And then I thought through some basic terms too. And let's compare to see if you thought about those terms and see how they work with strings. So go ahead and pause the video right now. Okay, you must have unpaused it. I have my animal here and I have password, a little bit longer and a stronger password. Did you think of index? I hope you did. And an index in an array accesses one element at a certain location. Now with a string, you're going to use a method called char at. So here I have char at 0 for the animal, char at 0, and 0 is Z. So this will return the character Z. We have a length property with an array with a string is going to be the length method. You don't need any arguments in there. This returns the size of the string, and Zebra has 5. Both of them have for loops in which you can access each character one at a time. They also have index bounds, so they all start with 0, characters and arrays, and the bounds, the upper bounds will be 1 less than the size, right? Same with the string. Since we just covered exceptions, did you think about the index out of bound exception? So yes, we have that too, but now we're going to get more specific. It's a string index out of bound exception. This does not have 22 characters, so this one's going to cause an error after you get out of bounds, whatever that upper bound is. Let's demonstrate some of those. So here we have a character array. It looks like it's empty. S says hello there. Okay, and then we're using the length, and here we're using a loop. Counter control loop, and it's going to use caret. Remember, caret is index, right? So you can think of caret count as being an index. And it's going to go character by character and output. Well, let's see. No, this is starting at the length of the word -1, okay, or the length of the string -1, and it's counting down. So I think it's going to display the string backwards. So here we have caret, and here we have get chars, plural. So it is going to go to S1 and say start at 0, go to 5. I want you to stick that in the character array. And since we're now in an array, I want you to output each character in the array using a for each loop. And let's go ahead and execute that. And there's our S1 when length is 11. As we saw, hello there is now printed backwards because you can access each character in a for loop. The methods, there are many methods, which is why I'm just going to point you to the resource. Instead of covering every method in detail, you have the resource and you can look up the methods you would need to use. Believe me, I do not have all this memorized. The internet is wonderful when you're programming. I hope you agree. So there are methods, there are string methods that allow you to access individual characters, caret, or a group of characters, such as substring is a method, get chars is a method. There are methods for comparing two strings. We'll see more about that on the next slide. And have you ever done a Control F in any document? Then you will have been using some of these search methods. Extracting substrings, pulling out a bit in the middle of the string, and then sometimes you got to compare and not worry about case, so you can convert things to uppercase or lowercase. Comparing strings. We've been using equality operator. I noticed that some of you know about the dot equals. Some of you have used that in some of your program. But at first, we just discussed the equality operator, which works wonderful with primitives. Perfect. Don't need anything else. But if it's an object and a string and it's an object, there can be some issues. Because what happens is something using the equality operator, two objects are the same only if they're in the identical same place in memory. So I've got Hank over here and Hank over there. I've been watching Breaking Bad. So Hank, okay? Hank over here and Hank over there. I think Hank equals Hank. No, Java says no, because they're not in the same place in memory. That means that way up at the top of the object hierarchy is the object class, and the object class has an equals method, and the string class has overridden the equals method. So that now if you use the dot equals method, what it's going to do is the words lexigraphically, it's going to lexigraphically compare character by character, the Unicode for each character, are they the same? And if all the way through the whole string they're exactly the same, then we have equal to sign. Now this is case sensitive because, as you know, capital A and a lowercase a are not the same. So Java provides an equals ignore case, which I might use a lot. If you've ever had to do some sorting within a program, let's say you have a list. Now we're going to actually look coming up pretty soon sorting an array. And if you have an array of string, you're going to need this compare to, and you need to know how this compare to works. So I'm comparing a string to a string. Let's say I'm comparing an apple to an orange, a string containing the value apple, a string containing the value orange. So if I say apple dot compare to orange as the argument, that is not going to return a 0 because they're not the same. So if I was doing apple dot compared to apple, they would return a 0. They're the same. But what's going to happen is, since apple comes before orange, this says I'm going to get a negative value, like a -1 or -1,000,000. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what it's going to be, but it's a negative value. It's less than 0. So I know that the calling string is before in the alphabet. The string used as an argument. And then the opposite will happen, right? So if I wrote orange dot compared to apple, it's going to be a positive number. And some other methods I'll quickly say start with, like, does this string start with BHC? And like, okay, or ends with similar to that. So let's just quickly, really quickly demonstrate those two methods. Oh, I forgot to demonstrate the string out of bound exception. Let me go ahead and run that. So here I am trying to access 22. It's actually saying, wait a minute, there's only 16 characters. The length of that is 16. So you're going to get a string index out of bound exceptions because you used that. And here's our compare to. S1 equals hello. No, let's check that out. So that's this statement here. And notice S1 is created using the new, and that means it's somewhere in the heap. And if I do another new, it could be somewhere else in the heap. So if we might use the equality operator, it won't say it's matching. But in this case, because we use the method here, it's going to say, yeah, they're the same. Down here, that's this one. I know S1 says hello, but they're not in the same place. So they're going to say they're not the same. So you always use .equals when you're comparing strings. And then you can't go wrong. Here's one where it ignores the case. And then here's a whole bunch of compare tos. Now, on that same document, we have a bunch of methods. Many methods for the string object. The way you're going to read this is the first column is the return type. And the second column is the method name. Here's a description. We've seen the caret. You put in a 0 for zebra, right? And it's going to return a z, which is a character. We have many methods. Some are overloaded. Here we've got content equals is overloaded. Copy value of. Just to get familiar with many of the string methods that there are. So that wraps up our brief discussion about strings. Spend some more time learning about the methods, and you're going to have some discussions on some of the string concepts that I haven't touched on here.